Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We got a power show of information for you as Victor Viggiani, one of Canada's top ufologists, is going to look into the UFO legacy of Paul Hellyer, a good friend of his. We're going to learn more about that tonight. We got a great show for you, and we want to say hello to each and every one of you as well, including Tim Mothman and his goatee in the gold medal position. Paramarv with a silver, Eternity Eternal with a bronze medal tonight as we say hello to Kitty Caddywhack. Mr. Cowley is here. Mr. Cowley will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Thunderhead, it's been a while. Glad to have you here. Robert Lamoth and Race Fan, nice to see you guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hi there, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship. And Necessary Dialogue. Creepy Pasta, how are you tonight? Trucker Andrew, how you doing, buddy? Hope you're driving safe along the highways. Mama Catherine, there she is. Mwah. I love you, my dear. I hope you have a wonderful night listening to Victor and myself. I know you're going to enjoy it. I promise you. And yeah, Mama Catherine sends me a good morning text message every morning. It warms my heart. That's how my day starts off every day. It's amazing. Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because literally Victor said, Dave, I'm not coming on the show unless Mel lubes me up so we could talk some UFOs. So Mel is busy in Toronto, Ontario, lubing up Victor as we speak. Frankie B, how you doing? Good to see you as we continue on with our roll call. Kurt M, nice to have you back, buddy. And who is next on our list? Well, it's Anil. How you doing? And scrolling on down, there's Cosmic Joe. If you wave at Cosmic Joe, he'll always wave back. Watch. He's waving as we speak. Thomas Rock, how you doing? Number 37 in your program, starting in goal tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Played 4 games already this season, has a 1.86 goals against average. Guy is rock solid in the pipes. The lovely Ozzy Ange is here. Ozzy Ange will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. And Ozzy Ange, if you could confirm that I'm alive tomorrow, I'd greatly appreciate it. Operation Shutdown, how are you? Destiny Rocks, thanks for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call. Good morning, Skip to Malou, Pam Harris, and Algaray over on Twitch. So excited for Victor. It only took him 6 minutes to do 2,700 push-ups. The guy's arms are jacked for the show tonight. And Draculticon, how you doing? It's been a while in the studio. And Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Kitty Caddywhack, thank you for that amazing super chat. Really appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you very, very much. And Destiny Rocks and Carol Amario, nice to have you here, my dear. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to take a look at the legend of Paul Hellyer, the former Canadian politician who literally believed in UFOs and for a long time was the highest politician to ever talk UFOs publicly. Victor Viggiani is here to talk about the legacy of Paul Hellyer and much more tonight as we are in roll call on our YouTube side right now, and we are caught up right now until Kurt W showed up. There he is. I'm Hardcore over on X. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you here. And if you're on X, jump in and say hello if you don't mind. We'd appreciate it. And reminder to all of you, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And of course, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. If you're listening in on the YouTube side, you could join our membership. We'd greatly appreciate it. Throw those horns up, everybody. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have an amazing show coming at you tonight. Canadian ufologist Victor Viggiani is going to join us. Hopefully, he does not talk the Toronto Blue Jays, because as a Yankees fan, I am absolutely stunned by this. Yes, I know I'm Canadian. Yes, I should be cheering for the Jays, but I'm a Yankee fan, and I'm not happy right now. And I can already see the smile on Victor's face as he's going to rub this in. He's going to rub it in hard. But that's okay. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will join us with another creepy story. We're going to follow that up with Robin Haynes coming in for the Q&A. Now, Victor Viggiani, which most people don't know, I don't even think Victor knows, that when I first started out on Spaced Out Radio way back in 2014, there was a conference in Vancouver that had Grant Cameron. It had Victor doing the emceeing. This is an event that went right across Canada. Paul Hellyer was even there speaking at the event. And I got to meet Victor there when I was a literal nobody in this field. I'd only been doing Spaced Out Radio for a couple of months. And I don't even know if Victor remembers that or not. But nonetheless, you know, I have always very much looked up to Victor Viggiani. He is somebody who has never said no to an interview from me. We enjoy talking UFOs, even if it's privately when we talk every couple of months. And he is somebody who is really trying hard to make a difference. He has his own media company out of Toronto called Zland, or if you're pronouncing it Canadian-wise, Zland Communications, where he breaks into all sorts of UFO news. If he finds something that's breaking, Zland is right on top of it, making sure that it happens. He's a retired school teacher. He is somebody who now does UFOs full-time, and I got to bring him on. You know, I really do, because I know I'm supposed to read the bio that we have for the person, but I just didn't feel like it tonight. I needed to just make it happen with Victor. How you doing, my friend? it's good to see you and have you back on Spaced Out Radio.
Oh, thank you for the kind words, my friend. Thank you, David, very much. You're right, and reading a bio and an introduction is a little kind of dry, but the introduction that you used is I guess appropriate at this particular point. And I do remember that conference in Vancouver with Paul and the rest. It was the Modern Knowledge Tour that we did across Canada. It hit Vancouver, Calgary, and Montreal and Toronto. So it was quite the event.
It was, and I remember going there, and I was just so amazed because I had heard of you, I'd heard of Grant, I've heard of Paul Hellyer. I forget the other two speakers that were there because there were four speakers in yourself.
Bassett was there, and Dolan.
I'm sorry, who in Dolan?
Bassett, Steve Bassett.
Yeah, Steve Bassett, that's right.
Yeah.
And I remember looking up at the stage at you guys, and I was just in awe. And what's weird for me, Victor, is it kind of reminded me, like, being an old sports journalist, I got to interview a lot of hockey players, man.
Wow.
A lot of hockey players, especially Mario Lemieux, Matt Sundin, Ray Bourque, Joe Sakic, Patrick Roy, but I only froze once. And that's when I interviewed Wayne Gretzky.
Get out. Wow.
And I froze. I wasn't even prepared, and he looked right at me like, "Are you going to ask a question?" And I froze right there.
Oh my goodness. That's not like you.
I'm like, you're the great one. That's all I really wanted to say was, you're the great one.
What a contribution, eh?
But it's weird because I kind of had this same moment with all of you guys up on stage, because I'd seen you guys all on these documentaries on UFOs on Discovery Channel and History Channel, because Netflix wasn't really around back then doing their thing. Amazon was just a pipe dream at that point. And I looked at this and I'm like, wow, like I'm in the presence of these guys who know the UFO story. And it just, I've never really told you this, man, but it meant the world to me. It really did mean the world to me as a youngster in this field, trying to carve out this little niche dream that I had called Spaced Out Radio.
Wow.
And I mean, this is going back 10 years now.
That's right. That's right.
And yet here you are. And I not only do I consider you a mentor, but I have the privilege of being able to call you a friend as well. And it just means a lot.
Well, back at you, man. Back at you. Wow, it's a special relationship, David, because not only the people that you have attached to Spaced Out Radio, but the influence that flows out from you to them and to all of their friends, and that's how this particular issue gets propagated. And I think you are of great benefit to the cause in so many different ways, in the way you help us through this miasma of information, and you're just the person to do it here in Canada. If it's going to be something that's going to really, if the fit's going to hit the shan eventually, you're going to be part of it big time, and it will happen eventually. Just a matter of how and when. And it's an important factor. Your program is a very important factor. It's the only one in Canada that I can think of that really, even in North America, that it really kind of focuses on the specific issues in a pretty in-depth kind of way. And your technique of getting to people and having them explain their perspectives on this whole issue is so valuable. I mean, I can't even quantify it, because it's extremely powerful in what you're doing. And do not ever underestimate your influence, let me tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a whole 8 seconds to rub it in about the Toronto Blue Jays, because of the kind words you just said.
Well, you know what, to be really honest with you, I have, as a kid, I always admired the New York Yankees. They were my team as a kid. I played a lot of baseball when I was younger. And upstairs, I have 2 Yankee hats, one that I got at Yankee Stadium back in 2018 when my wife and I went to New York. We watched a game, and I purchased an official Yankee hat, and it's upstairs. And then I bought another. So I do have the hat. They're no longer my favorite team. They haven't been for a while. It's not that I don't like them, but and I wear the hat all the time because I love the hat. And as soon as you mentioned, I was going to run upstairs and get it quickly, but I figured I'd better not. So
Oh,
I do wear their hat all the time. So, but then again, about the Jays, it was just a magic moment. There's just no doubt about it.
man.
We didn't think they would be able to do it. I mean, it was a seventh or eighth inning when they did it, and when Springer hit that dinger, it really rung a bell. Let me tell you, the whole place just became electric. Uh,
Yeah.
good on them. They're a great bunch of guys, and wish them well. And we'll just see what happens in the next week or so.
I had no idea who to cheer for in that series. I really didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
As a Canadian, you have a soft spot for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Mhm.
I think every Canadian does. But on the West Coast here, I mean, Seattle is our team.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
and so it was very, very hard
Yeah.
to try and be unbiased during that series because I
Yeah.
wanted both teams to win,
Yeah.
but
Of course.
I will say this though, man, I
Mhm.
love baseball.
Oh, don't you? Yeah. Well,
I love
yeah.
baseball.
You know
And
what? Yeah, it's amazing. You know what I do a lot? I don't necessarily follow the Jays religiously as much as I should, but I just love coming downstairs, and we have a big 50-inch screen downstairs and a nice sound system, and I'll throw on the sports channel, the sports net, or whatever, and I'll just watch any two teams play. I don't care who they are. I just love the sound and the vibe and the whole just the calm nature of this game. And I just love watching because I played so much as a kid. I was a catcher all of my youth, and even I stopped playing baseball when I was 53 years old as a catcher. So it was in my blood, and watching people play this game, and it doesn't matter who plays. I just love watching how that feels. So many interesting things about the game of baseball. Take a
oh,
second.
I agree.
Number one, there's no time limit. Okay. It could conceivably go on forever. There's no time limit.
Agree.
Um, there's all 9 players on the field, right? There's only one player on the field who's facing the opposite direction. In no other sport, and that's the catcher. And then
Yes,
everybody
sir.
else on the team. And the other part of it is the catcher is the only player standing out of bounds. And it's a very unique game in so many different ways. And the mistake that the surveyor made when they made the 60 feet 6 inches is a kind of a bell ringer to what kind of mistake they made in keeping that distance with the 606 and all of the threes and all the things that are involved with the baseball game itself, with the 9 innings, or everything's a multiple of 3, and it's kind of a funny thing that it would happen that way. I think it makes that game very unique.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And as much as I'm a hockey guy through and
Mhm.
through, I
Yeah.
don't even, and I don't mean to talk sports here,
No.
but I am a sports fanatic.
Mhm.
I don't even recognize hockey anymore.
Yeah.
They've changed the game so much.
Mhm.
And yes, they say the skill is better, the players are better. I miss that hard-nosed grinding hockey,
Yeah.
Not when
Yeah.
you see a hit now, there's a big scrum. Not,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it just drives me nuts. I don't recognize the game anymore. It's
It
become
is. Yeah.
too watered down, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let's talk some UFOs here.
Anyways, yes, let's launch into it.
Let's talk some UFOs.
Mm.
We got about 10 minutes to go before the break, and I only
Okay.
mention that, Victor, because in the next half hour, I really, really want to get into Paul Hellyer.
Mhm.
You and I have dabbled in that conversation before, but we've never really gone in depth with it, and that's
Mhm.
why I wanted to bring you on. Your love of this subject is why? Why do you do it?
um, why do I do it? Well, first of all, because it's got to be done. Okay, that's the first thing. It has to be done. There's so many people working at it, and it just has to be done because of the nature of this phenomenon. It's something that's a must in the human condition. As much as it gets disregarded in the media, ridiculed in so many different ways in corporate America and just the corporate industry throughout the planet, and the whole power structure, the way it's all minimized and criticized and downplayed. The issue is so controversial and so mind blowing that it's in the interest of the power structures of the globe to downplay it, because if the power structures internationally give it any kind of airplay, it reduces their ability to control, or what some people call full spectrum dominance of the planet. And when we recognize that there are so many countries vying for that full spectrum dominance in the face of the cosmic reality that we are not alone, everything that we're doing on the planet here looks so simplistic and so Neanderthal in the face of this cosmic call that we're facing by these non-human intelligence. So it's something that has to be done. It has to be brought to the surface. It has to be recognized as the main issue that the planet faces, in addition to all of the other problems that we have. This particular issue has to be recognized, and it's not getting the recognition that it should. And that's when you say, why do I do it? That's probably one of the reasons why I keep on doing is I just keep on ringing the bell and trying to raise the flag and create an awareness that we have to pay attention to this issue more than any other issue on the planet. And once we recognize this particular issue, all of the other issues that face the human family, well, they take on a different perspective. It doesn't matter what the issue is, be it climate change, be it technology, be it science, be it medicine, doesn't matter what it is. Every single issue on the planet that we're facing will completely change, will be mutated by the recognition that we are, A, that we're not alone in the cosmos, and B, that we are being engaged by these off-world intelligences. So once we get that on the table for everyone to recognize and to talk about, then I think all of our other difficulties that this planet is facing will be put in a different perspective. There'll be a different lens that we can look at all of our problems with once this whole idea of the presence of a non-human intelligence is brought to the forefront. And not just a matter, Dave, of it being brought to the forefront. It's the possibility of what contact will look like. How will these species interact with us to allow us to understand that we are part of a galactic community that we really don't recognize. And when we do become, in fact, aware of that community and part of it through some sort of diplomatic contact, how will that change the planet? What will happen as a result of everybody on the planet recognizing that there are non-human intelligences out there that, for some reason or another, are attempting to monitor us and watch us and be vigilant about what we're doing? And that kind of how can I put it? That surveillance, that's not a negative word. The way they're watching us is very important for us to realize, because it's my opinion that there's a certain huge benefit to that surveillance eventually when we recognize that it's got to happen. And so that's why I do it. So just to raise the whole issue to a point. And everybody else that I'm involved with, the Danny Sheehan's and the Bassett's and the Dolans and and Paul's work, that was what they wanted. It was the same sort of thing. So you ask why I do it, and that's why it's. And if people like us don't do it, David, nobody else will. The ambivalent won't do it. The powerful won't do it. And so it's up to us to do it.
This may sound like a loaded and a very vague question, but I'm going to ask it to you anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think there is a cover-up continually going on, not only from a Canadian perspective, but from a United States perspective?
It's a really loaded question, and it has to do with if you just take for example the United States alone. Okay, there was a project that's called the Project for a New American Century. It was something that happened right after I guess Ronald Reagan took his position as the president, and what they did was had a fellow named William Crystal, along with a partner of his, write this project for a new American century. And in that project, it was just after the fall of the Soviet Union. And once the Soviet Union fell, that adversarial relationship between the Soviet Union and the United States just fell apart, completely fell apart. And what they did was the United States recognized that they now had a free pass to develop technology, weaponry, call it what you want, their dominance over the planet, and they took full advantage of it. And that project for the New American Century was written up in a form that is still with us today. And what it did do, it defined what I just mentioned earlier, with a thing called full spectrum dominance. And that's what they wanted, and they've achieved that. They've achieved that with their, nuclear weapons and with their military bases around the world. They are a dominant world force in the face of even someone like a country like Russia. Although Russia is a dominant force with its nuclear arsenals, its economic structure does not hold a candle to what the United States has. So that power structure is the thing that's the dominant feature of the global community right now. If there's one thing that everybody agrees upon, is that the United States of America, for better or worse, is the most powerful entity on the planet. And there, in and of itself, is the reason why there is a cover-up, because the United States, having this huge arsenal of weaponry, this huge dominance economically over the planet, and this huge dominance over the planet in terms of geopolitical influence, it's got its finger in every single pie. And if the UFO issue, to categorize it, were to ever come out, and the UFO issue be recognized for what it really is, that A, we're not alone in the cosmos, and B, that there are planets that are inhabited by non-human intelligences that are 5 to 6 billion years more advanced than us, and have technologies that make our nuclear weapons look like a box of matches. And the United States is not willing to allow that idea to propagate. So therefore, there's the cover-up. They do not want the information out that there are intelligences out there that have a significant amount of intellectual, cultural dominance and history than the United States. So they don't want to give that up. And that's why there's a cover-up. And in a nutshell, there are other reasons, subsidiary reasons, but that's the main reason why there is a cover-up. The United States of America and its influencers all across the geopolitical spectrum in the West, and even in Europe, maintain significant control as to how other countries frame this issue. And the United States has these countries under its thumb. You shall not disclose. That's basically what they're saying. Now, how they go about, using that threat is another question altogether. But the fact of the matter is, the United States of America does not want this information out, and that's why there's a cover-up.
Is it about hiding the technology as we go to about 90 seconds to go here, Victor, or is it about hiding something from humanity?
Both, definitely both. I'll try to do this in the time you allotted. It is about the technology. The United States, we know, and some other countries probably too. The United States has back engineered some of these crafts, so they do know how some of this technology works. But the reason that there's a cover-up is that whatever kind of technology the U.S. has perfected, or at least are experimenting with, they don't want other nations to know that. They don't want, although other nations know that it's possible. But I think the United States is by far in the lead with experimenting with some of the anti-gravitic technologies that are out there that they have gained by back engineering some of these crashed UFOs. So the United States does not want this stuff to fall into the hands in a perfected way, as they say, for example, in China or Russia. They don't want that to happen. So it is about technology. And then the hand in glove issue there is the rest of humanity does not want to know this, according to them. Humanity must be kept in the dark about this issue, because if they're not kept in the dark, it's going to seep out all over the place. And therefore, this whole full spectrum dominance that the United States maintains will fall apart in pieces, as it might already be happening right now. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. It is both, in answer to your question.
When we return with Victor Viggiani from Zland Communications, Zland, if you're below the 49th parallel, we're going to get into the legacy, the history of Canadian politician Paul Hellyer and how he helped redefine the UFO story on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear.
Okay.
Good times.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I just got to text my daughter back here.
Mm.
All right, quickly here. Hello to Human Carl is here, everybody. A great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you, Human Carl, for coming on in. And who else do we have that's dropped in here? Glenn John McEnroe, the pride of Wimbledon. How are you, buddy? Blue Cruz, nice to see you. Woo Poo, nice to see you. And who else has jumped in here? There we go. We're caught up there.
I'm going to drop the coverage of Paul into your chat box if you want to send it out.
Sure.
There it is right there.
Perfect. Thanks, buddy.
Okay.
I'm going to put this link in our chat room if you don't mind.
Nope, go right ahead. If you ask about how this all happened with Strange Days Indeed, it'll really set me off.
No problem.
Well, I think I told you that story before.
Now we'll get into it with the audience again.
Yeah.
Mark Cosgrove, how you doing? Eva, nice to see you. JSCO, thanks for coming on in. By the way, if you can, if you have darker skies, make sure you go outside and look for Comet Lemon tonight. I saw Comet Lemon earlier, and it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. My little guy I brought my binoculars out. My little dude, he was like,
must have loved that.
He was like, "Where is it, Dad?" So it took him about 5-8 minutes, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, look at that. Look at that tail." My daughter's texting me right now. First time in her life she had a migraine tonight.
Oh my God. How old is she?
26.
Ooh.
Yeah. She got engaged a couple months ago.
Oh my goodness.
So really.
And so it starts.
You know what? I will say this. I really didn't know which way my daughter was going to go. Not that it mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And she, but a couple years ago, she met a really nice young man. And, you know, as a father, you always measure that man who's going to enter your daughter's life as, you know, you eye them up. You examine. And this young man treats my daughter like a queen.
Wow.
Just a queen.
That's amazing. That's terrific.
And I am so blessed that I'm going to call this young man my son-in-law.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, it's a new relationship. I know when my daughter got married and when she was dating Colin, her future husband, you're right. You sized him up pretty well, and yeah, it's almost like a responsibility that you have to yourself. You know,
my first words to meeting the young man I say to him point blank, I said, don't make eye contact. And remember, I don't like you. That's my Victor, hold on right there. We're going to get going here. That's true story. Thank you to Lori and thank you to Kitty for the super chats. It's a great way to support what we do. Hi, Broken Shadow Feather. Here we go, everyone. Here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in as we're going to talk about the UFO legacy of the late Paul Hellyer. Victor Viggiani is our guest tonight. Before we bring Victor back on, we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From Toronto, Ontario, from Zland Communications, Victor Viggiani is here to talk about the legend of Paul Hellyer, a Canadian politician who served at almost every capacity except Prime Minister, but it was after his career that he found a new love, UFOs. Victor, welcome back.
Great to be with you again, David. Great. And your audience. Hello, everyone.
Tell us about Paul Hellyer.
A quiet giant, let me tell you. I got to know that about him later on in our relationship. To begin with, it was an acquaintanceship. That's all it was. But as I got to know the man and the depth of his integrity and his confidence and his intellect and his care for his fellow human beings, he stood as a giant. He was, well over 6'3" or 6'4", a very imposing figure. He's the kind of person who, when you first meet him, he stares you right in the eyes and just gives you that whole kind of who he is. And the gravitas in that man was, when I first met him, right after I spoke to him on the phone to get him to come to the conference, I was struck by all of the things that I guess the depth of a person who's had that kind of experience politically over his lifetime, and also too his family. Very strong family man, and sincere and as honest as you'd ever want to imagine. He'll tell you the truth right away, whether you like to hear it or not. He lets you have it right away. There's no equivocation about the man. There wasn't anyways. So that's what really kind of struck me about him, was his sincerity and the drive that this man had. When I first met him, I think he was 81 or 82. And he just perpetuated that until he passed away in August of 2021. He was the same person all the time, consistent in word and deed all of the time.
And very loyal to the crown.
Oh, yes, very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
You hear the word patriot used a lot in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Hellyer was considered a patriot in Canada.
Yeah, he really was, Dave. A patriot in the sense that it was born out of respect. I think that as a member of the Privy Council at the time, he realized the history of Canada and the way Canada evolved with its, I guess, its roots in the United Kingdom, and all of the parliamentary procedures that Canada took on as a result of using the same form of governance that was the foundation in the UK. He recognized the parliamentary system as a unique kind of governance, not perfect by any shape, way, or form, but definitely a form of governance that allowed the leader of the government, the Prime Minister of Canada, to be in the presence of the rest of the representatives, the rest of the members of Parliament in Parliament every single day. And that is something very unique in the way ideas and policies are brought about in the Canadian system. And to this day, the parliamentary system, I think, rings true about that. And I mean, like I said, it's not a perfect system, but definitely it's a way of, I guess, expressing the accountability that elected representatives have to have, are forced to have, in things like question period and so on, and even in legislation, to the people who elect them. And it's true right now. I think it's one of the reasons why our governance is so different from any other form, especially from the republic down south of us. And you can see the problems they're having with the way their government is structured. So I think he recognized all of that, and he was doggedly loyal and patriotic towards that form of government.
He was somebody who happened to be the Minister of Defense in Canada during a couple of iconic moments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Shag Harbor,
Right.
number one in 1967.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after Shag Harbor, he did this really weird thing for Canada's 100th anniversary in 1967. He flew to St. Paul, Alberta to open up a UFO landing pad that basically said everybody is welcome, including people from not Earth. They're welcome in Canada. I mean, that was that. I think the irony in that moment,
Oh
that
yeah.
he probably didn't know at that point, was very, very strong. Your thoughts?
Well, no, it's a great thing for you to bring up at this point, because the irony of him doing that uh, as far back as he did was incredible. Because in some of the stuff that I learned from Library and Archives Canada, it's the huge compository of UFO files that Library and Archives Canada has, and you can get to it just by going to Library and Archives Canada and looking at the 9,500 UFO files that are there. They're all categorized to Department of Transport, RCMP, and Department of Defense. They're all there. There's 9,500 files, and they're all pretty boring as sightings and all that, so it's not really a big deal. But what is in there is kind of telling, because there's a whole lot of ministerial letters that are there, posted there. And you can actually read them. They're the actual text of the letters, the actual memos and correspondences. And many of the ministers of defense at the time, Harkness and some of the other people, Paul Hellyer being one of them, they were sent letters by people, by citizens of Canada, saying, you know, there's UFOs out there, and there's this, there's that, and none of the at the time. We're talking back in Paul's initial sort of experience as Department of Defense, because he was involved in unifying all of the forces in Canada, bringing the Air Force and Navy and the Army all together under one umbrella, and that consumed all of his time. And that was one of the reasons why he really didn't pay. And he admitted that to me, and he admitted it publicly, that he just literally did not have time or any kind of interest at the time to get involved in UFOs, because it just wasn't on his radar, so to speak. And it wasn't something that consumed the cabinet. It wasn't something that consumed the prime ministers of the day. So it was really something that was just an oh by the way sort of thing. And that's his move to do that in St. Paul, to put that landing pad, may have been he never told me this directly, but it may have been part of his thought processes at the time, as a result of all the correspondences that he was receiving at the time, to have him recognize the issue, which during his tenure as a Minister of Defense, he really didn't come out and say anything about it publicly. So it was something that he did, be it the spontaneous nature of the moment, be it something that he was called to do, be it something that the people of St. Paul said, well, we want a landing pad, and who else can we invite in to kind of, give it an imprimatur. And so Paul Hellyer was called upon to do it. And that's pretty much all he did with respect to that. And he didn't pay much attention after that to the issue alone whatsoever.
No, he really did not. And
No.
and I think for him, I always questioned, and this may sound a little bit controversial, but I always questioned whether or not he actually cared about the UFO subject, or if he was covering something up. because with Shag Harbor happening on his watch at that time, it didn't make sense to me that he, in my conversations with him, that he really didn't know what was going on at that point. And it just didn't make sense to me.
No, I think you're right. Now, Paul and I don't really think Paul and I ever really talked about the Shag Harbor incident or any of the other specific things that may have happened when he was defense minister. But I think you're right. It didn't make any sense to him at the time to pay too much attention to it because it was just so damn controversial, and it just didn't make sense for him to get involved in something like that, because if he did, it would have meant. I guess what I think it was, because if the Shag Harbor incident was really something that would have motivated him to come forward back at that particular point in time, he would have had to have been bitten by this issue. Okay, and he wasn't bitten by this issue until we brought him forward in 2005. Before that, and there's reasons why that we can talk about how he got bitten by it. But back then he was not, it didn't get him in the gut, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It didn't have the political impact that he eventually grew into to come forward in 2005. Back then, it just wasn't in his wheelhouse to even do that. And it might have been too controversial. I don't know if it was a matter of covering it up, unless he had information about it that he didn't share with me. That may have been the case, but Paul was pretty open. He never really discussed anything that would have been something of his participation in any kind of cover-up. That never really came up. It's just that it wasn't as important back then as he eventually learned it to be important. So I think it's one of the reasons why he didn't really make a big issue out of Shag Harbor. Now, there may have been other reasons that he didn't tell me, but he and I had a pretty damn close relationship, so I'm not surprised that he chose to handle that particular situation. In addition to all of the other things that happened in the late 1950s and the mid 50s with respect to UFOs crashing in northern Saskatchewan, okay, or letters from the committee of the Intelligence Committee in Ottawa, letters, letters from the director of the Intelligence Committee in the 50s saying that we're just not going to deal with this because the United States is telling us to keep this on the lowdown. There are memos that prove that, and they're available at Library and Archives Canada, and I put them on my website too. It specifically says that we will not talk about this or raise any questions about UFO. Or they didn't call them UFOs then; they called them flying saucers. That they would not mention them. So, I mean, that was a pretty prevalent mindset of the entire intelligence community in Canada at the time, in addition to the Department of Defense. So it was a case of the tail wagging the dog in the United States saying, well, no, you guys are not going to talk about this. And maybe that's why Paul did not raise this as an issue, because it was policy of the government just not to talk about it. He told me that in cabinet, they did discuss the issue, flying saucers, when he was part of the Lester B. Pearson cabinet, but it was never really a dominant as it is now. It's the only thing I can compare it to. It just wasn't the big issue back then that it was. It was the cover-up was really active at that point, and Canada played its role in keeping its mouth shut. And I guess Paul might have been part of that.
Let's take a step back here for a minute and learn why he got into UFOs.
Okay. Well, it all started with me I used to help Errol Bruce Knapp. I was the co-host on Strange Days Indeed on CFRB here in Toronto. And many people who are listening right now may be old enough to remember that program. And Errol Bruce Knapp was a leader. He was the one who ran UFO updates. It was a huge enterprise that he moderated on the internet at the time. And they had people commenting on UFOs. Anybody who was anybody with respect to UFOs contributed to UFO updates. And also, too, listening in on Saturday nights from 11 o'clock to 1 on CFRB every Saturday night to Strange Days Indeed. And he had, and we're talking about in the mid 80s all the way up to the late 90s when Strange Days Indeed was still on the air. The listenership was just huge. And we knew that that was a strong listenership because we'd get calls from all over the world. And this is basically when it was just radio, David. There was no internet at the time. The last couple of years there was, but we just had a huge following. So everybody who was involved in UFOs at the time listened to that particular program, and Errol and I interviewed anybody and everybody who was involved in it. Jim Mars and Bassett's and the whole Stanton Friedman. The list just went on and on and on every single Saturday night, and it was really something that particular program had the following that it did. And as a result of how we got involved, I'll talk to you about that in a moment. But the reason that he actually got involved to begin with, far before I even spoke to him, that a fellow named Pierre Junot, who lives out in BC, and Pierre will probably get angry at me for even mentioning his name, but Pierre was and still is interested in this whole issue, but he does not like any notoriety. He sent Paul the book by Philip J. Corso the day after Roswell. He sent him that book, and that was months before I talked to him on CFRB. So he was reading the book, and he had no idea about the whole thing. He had heard about the issue, I would imagine, but once he read the book, he became convinced that this was something really, really big, and that he had seriously underestimated as a politician. So as a result of that, one night we were doing the radio show. Errol and I were doing the show, and I forget who we had on. I have no idea who it was, but there were people listening. So the show ended at 1 o'clock in the morning, and so Errol and Boosnap and I are packing up all of our stuff in the studio and ready to go. And there's the big glass window in CFRB studios. The op knocks on the window between us. Says, "Victor, there's a call for you on line 1." So I said, we just spent 2 hours in the radio. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm wiped out. You sit there. You know what it's like. After you finish a show like that, you're physically drained. You're listening and you're watching your notes and everything, and asking questions and paying attention to everybody and the call in. So you really get drained out. And I didn't want to deal with anybody, but I took the call anyways. And I said, "Hello, Victor Viggiani here." And he said, "Hello, Victor. My name is Jim." Okay, I'll leave it at that. And I have a very close friend who's part of our Bible study group. His name is Paul Hellyer. I said, "Okay, yeah. So what? Big deal." So you have to talk to Paul Hellyer. And everybody, and I knew who Paul Hellyer was at the time about his history, but I had no idea that he had any interest in this at all, or that he was reading the book. So this fellow Jim told me that Paul was reading this book the day after Roswell, and that I needed to talk to him about it because he became very, very interested in it. And so at the time, Mike Bird and I were planning the symposium in Toronto at Convocation Hall. And we had Stanton Friedman there, and Steve Bassett and Richard Dolan speaking at this conference. And we were planning, and this was in, I think, April or May of 2005. And so that was in the back of my mind. And so I said, "Okay, thank you very much." He gave me Paul's number. I called Paul, I think about a week or so later. I didn't really jump on it right away. So I called him up. I said, "Mr. Hellyer, my name is Victor Viggiani. Yeah. And Jim, your friend, gave me your telephone number. And he said that you're reading the Day After Roswell by Philip J. Corso. He said, what do you think of it?" He said, "My goodness, I'm about halfway through it, and it's just fascinating." You could tell that he was actually struck by it. He'd never read anything so prescient about this issue before in his life. So as a result of that, I said, "Well, Mr. Hellyer, if you're involved in this particular book, you may want to consider being our keynote speaker at the symposium that we're holding at the University of Toronto on September 25th of 2005. Would you want to be the keynote speaker about this and bring your ideas forward?" And he said, "Oh, no, I could never do that. No, I could never do that." And I was sort of surprised, and I said, "Well, fine, that's good. Okay. But would you mind if I give you a call back in, let's say, 2 weeks after you finish reading the book?" And he said, "Sure, that's fine. I'll do that." So about 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks went by. And I jumped on the phone right away, and I called him. And I said, "Have you finished reading the book?" He said, "Yes, I have." I said, "Have you changed your mind? Would you be our keynote speaker?" He said, "Yes, I will." And he didn't say mm-hmm or okay. He said, yes, I will. And in a way that it told me that this guy was locked into this issue because of what he read. And so that was one part of why he came forward. The other part of why he came forward was once he finished reading the book, his nephew was very in touch with the military at the time, and his nephew knew a general in the United States. I'm not sure if it was an Army or Air Force general. I'm not quite sure. But in any case, it was a general in the United States. So his nephew said, Uncle Paul, you need to talk to this general about this issue. And so Paul called this individual. I think they had 2 or 3 conversations. Paul called this general and asked him about Philip J. Corso's book, which the general had read and knew about even more. And so Paul asked about the book. And so the general said back to him, Mr. Hellyer, everything in that book is true and more. And that was the thing that tipped the balance for him. Once he got the okay from this, or the sanction from this particular general, he became convinced. In addition to reading the book and all the details that were in the book, that's when he decided to be the keynote speaker on September 25th of 2005. That's how it all kind of rolled together.
Did he love this subject? As we got about 3 minutes to go, or did he fall into
No, he considered it an irritant, believe it or not. When I asked him, this will really tell you where his head was at. When I asked him to do this, when we spoke on the phone, and subsequently, he told me, he said, well, at the time, his wife, they had just been married for both of them for the second time. And he said to his wife, said, well, why are you doing this? What are you doing? And Paul said to his wife, it's just a one-off thing. That's all I'm going to do. I'll go and I'll speak at this conference, and that'll be it. It'll be he used that word. It'll be just a one-off thing. And which kind of indicated to me that, yeah, okay, I'll speak about this. I'll let everybody know how I feel about it. But that's as far as I'm going to go. And so in answer to your question, did he love the subject? At the time, I don't think he really did love the issue in terms of how you phrased it, but he thought it was important that people should know that a former minister of defense believed this issue was something that we needed to talk about, and that the government was holding back information about it, and they needed to be accountable. So eventually, after he became this keynote speaker, and all of the people, 450 people in Convocation Hall heard this man say UFOs are as real as the airplanes that fly over your head. That sort of resonated. And when I released the press release about in the middle of August, before the actual symposium began, I put out a press release as best I could, and as much as I could afford financially. So I put it out on I think it was a Monday or Tuesday, and the next Thursday, and you get all the analytics about it, there were 53,000 reads of that particular press release. So I knew something was going to be happening, because the news agencies were picking this up. So it was important. And as that grew, it sort of struck him that this is going. I've rung a bell here that I can't unring. And the more he delved into it, which we can get to after the break, when he started to get involved with all of the people that I brought forward him to, brought him in contact with, he became more and more, and we can talk about any number of people who he spoke to, who made him really understand that this affected all of humanity. It became something more than just an issue, and he had a strong belief in citizens' rights to know, and that's why I think it really got to him. It became a gut issue for him after that.
He took it personally.
Yeah, very, very much so. It didn't begin that way. Did not begin that way whatsoever. But after a while, once he realized the technologies involved, the cover-up that was how deep the cover-up was, the people that he spoke to, both when he was Minister of Defense and after he came forward, everybody, I think to a person, realized that this man was now going to be in charge of getting this thing onto the front pages of newspapers, and he was on MSNBC, and he was interviewed all over the world,
Right.
just for many, many different reasons. So it got to him to a point where he had to do it. He had no choice to
Hold
do
that
it.
thought, Victor. Victor
Yeah, go ahead.
Viggiani, the legacy of Paul Hellyer on Spaced Out Radio continues after this. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Victor, we are clear. We got about 6 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to put you in the green room, and I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, I'm going to go.
Be right back, everybody. All right. I am back. And let's bring Victor back in. Is he there? No, he's not in his chair. Marie Kay, how are you? Nice to see you. Walter Kochabinski, nice to have you here. Vincent Plassenthal, welcome to SOR Chat. Pilgrim Society, nice to see you. Victor, if you're listening in, your camera turned off. Your camera turned off. There you are. All right, JSCO, thank you for that awesome super chat, along with Lori and Kitty. Super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you very much. This is fun. This is a good conversation.
Glad you like it.
Always, anytime I get to spend with you, man.
It's, you know what
So
it is? It's a conversation. I like that. It's just the way you frame it. It's really it's a good way to present the information so conversationally rather than sort of a formal interview, you know?
We got about 15 seconds.
Okay.
Reminder to everybody, you can always shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag. No ugly swag, so make sure you check it on out. And here we go, everyone. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Greatly appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ignivimus. I have no idea if I pronounced that properly, but use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in Victor Viggiani from Zland Communications, based out of Toronto, Ontario. We're talking about the legacy in the UFO world of the late Paul Hellyer. Now, one of the things Paul Hellyer was he was the Minister of Defense in Canada. He served on Canada's Privy Council. He had access to some of the most powerful people in the world. Yet those secrets seem to go, the UFO secrets seem to go to the grave with him, to put it politely. Okay. Why do you think he took so many of those stories, secrets, and knowledge to the grave?
Well, I guess mainly because they're so controversial. I guess is one of the reasons. But in his book, Light at the End of the Tunnel, and Paul, people need to know that Paul was seriously involved in the economy and the economic realm of Canadian politics, and he had ways that he wanted to, I guess, bring forward to the Canadian government after he left politics to remedy some of the problems that the Canada was facing after the war, and how they got out of all the economic problems that they had experienced. And Paul has some pretty damn good ideas about that. And so, but in the book, Light at the End of the Tunnel, he expounded on all of that. And I'm not quite sure that that Paul was in touch with some of the deeper secrets, because I know for a fact that he spoke to a number of people in his career, because I read the book itself. I mean, actually, I read the transcript of it, and he asked me to sort of proofread the initial transcript of his first book. And there really wasn't anything in there that was earth-shattering that I didn't know about. And so if he did have things that that came forward as a result of his communication, either in his role as a deputy prime minister and minister of defense. He really didn't, bring that stuff forward in a way that maybe he didn't think was important, or maybe he thought it was just too big. But I don't know if I could actually say that he knew specific things of a deep nature that he might have taken to his grave. That to me, he never shared, and he never said that to me. Let's put it that way. That he knew things that he just couldn't talk about. I'll be honest with you, David. He never really said that to me. Now, why he didn't, and his reasons for doing that, I don't know. I mean, I knew the man well, but not to a point of getting inside of his head on every single thing that he thought about. So that's the only way I can answer the question.
Do you think he knew a lot more than what he let out?
When he came, let's put it this way: one of the things that that he was the first to really kind of a first politician, anyways, someone in North America of cabinet rank, the first person of cabinet rank in North America. One of the things that he said, and he was really dumped on for this, he was really criticized for it heavily, is when he spoke about the 53 different races that were responsible for these UFOs. And he was criticized roundly at the time because he said that in 2013 at the citizen hearings in Washington, D.C. that Steve Bassett had. And it was over 5 days. And Paul was one of, I think, about 30 speakers that Steve Bassett brought forward. And at that particular citizen hearing, before former senators and congressmen in Washington, D.C., he said that specifically. And he was roundly criticized. People raised their eyebrow. And now it comes out that there's a multiplicity of these things, of these races doing this. So Paul's indication that was the case, and where he found that out, I'm not, and to be really honest with you, I'm not sure where he dug that out, where he found out about that. Maybe he spoke with someone. Maybe it was the general. I don't know, but he found it out nonetheless, and it's something that he made a point of far before its time. And the amount of criticism he incurred because of making that statement about that number of races was almost unbearable. I mean, I was getting dumped on myself. Victor, who is this guy? Why is he saying that? And eventually it comes out that there are many more than 53 races out there, and whether or not there are those particular 53 races visiting or monitoring our planet, we don't know. But Paul somehow found out that there's this number of races that were responsible for this UFO phenomenon. So he wasn't a person to pull punches, and that's one of the biggest things that I feel that he kind of gave credence to. Let's put it that way.
How would he know about 53 races? He's somebody who, if I get him right, he's somebody who wouldn't just come out and say something off the cuff like that. He would have to have some sort of proof.
Yeah. Well, if not proof, at least validation from somebody else. I'll tell you a story about that, and maybe this is where he might have gotten it from in a previous conversation, but I forget. He came forward in 2005. Many years later, I don't know how many years later, I arranged a conference at De La Salle Oaklands College, and I had Stephen Greer, Steve Bassett, and Paul speak at that conference, and at the De La Salle Auditorium, and it was just jam packed. Okay, it was a full house, and Bassett gave his 2 cents worth, which everybody knows who's listened to before. He's just a wealth of information and a political activist, and so is Stephen Greer. And say what you feel about Stephen Greer, and I have some very strong feelings about Stephen. But just before the conference, after we brought Steve Greer in, I picked him up at the airport, and we drove downtown, and we had a meeting at Paul's office, about a 2-hour meeting at Paul's Bay Street office. There's myself and Stephen Greer and Paul. And at that time, Greer shared with Paul a number of things which were founded on the number of races. And I don't remember the number that Greer used, but he did say significant that there were many races involved in all of this. Okay, and they talked about this, and this is you know, Steve, you know, Greer, the way he gets his information. Who knows? He's probably one of the cornerstones of this whole disclosure movement, who initiated it back in 2001. And I never really doubted Stephen in those kinds of ways, but Greer was definitely involved in a lot of conversations with congressional leaders and with military people and insiders in the intelligence community. He definitely was. There's just no question about that. My only problem with Stephen is that, and Stephen, if you're listening, you'll probably get pissed off, but he inflates his own importance. Okay, and I'm just saying that he feels that he is one of the few, and if not the only one, who has the real goods on this issue. And I would debate with Steve on that at any particular time, because he does do that. But nonetheless, he is a kingpin in all of this. So Paul was really informed by Steve about a lot of things. One of the things that we did talk about, which really kind of blew me away, was that Greer was one of the first people to talk about this business of UFOs being underwater, or like in below the surface of water, and also having the capacity to transmute matter to a point where there'd be. He cited it this way. He said that there was a mountain someplace in where this destroyer was moving through the ocean, and a UFO came through over the destroyer and went right into the mountain. There was a portal in the mountain where this UFO just went right into this portal. It was absorbed by it within this portal, and which blew us away at the time, because it was something that had never been talked about before. This kind of transmutations of matter to allow UFO to go into a mountain and also come out of the water. And people who are listening right now can probably know that Richard Dolan has just written a very, very incisive book about UFOs, USOs, underwater UFOs, and they're up to. He's investigated over 360 cases, and Richard Dolan's corroborative information is that there are bases underwater. There are actual bases underwater, and for someone like Richard Dolan, who wouldn't even mention the word abductions back in 2005. He didn't. He was someone who did not, in one way or another, believe anything about UFO abductions or alien abductions. Now he's moved along the continuum to a point where he's stating in this book that there are, in fact, underwater UFO bases all over the planet. So back then, when Paul was, made aware of this kind of information, Greer had a significant influence on how Paul went forward with some sort of corroboration, or at least confidence that the information that he had was verifiable. And that's what Paul did. He took it upon himself to use Greer's expertise and influence to manifest these kinds of things, which were back then, 2015 or 16, whatever it was way beyond the curve. It was way behind before 2017, when Luis Elizondo made his big revelation in 2017 after Blumenthal and Leslie Kean made their announcement in the New York Times. So Paul was before that. I mean, he was introducing ideas that eventually became common knowledge among the UFO community. So in a way, he was a pioneer about all this stuff, and he took a lot of risk and a lot of crap because of it.
But was he on an island of his own, considering his position within government of Canada as well as governments around the world? Because nobody was speaking out. We didn't have a president speaking UFOs back then.
No,
we didn't have politicians and like we do see in the States with people in the Senate or even members of Parliament in Canada talking about this.
No, you're right. That's a good phrase. On an island of his own. I'm trying to think of other international leaders who may have had some sort of influence. The only one that I know of would have been, at the time, Bill Clinton. and he made some very categorical statements about he spoke at some sort of press conference or before an audience saying that, if a UFO crashed at Roswell, nobody told me about it, and I want to know. So Bill Clinton was someone who brought that forward, and I think one of the reasons that Bill Clinton did that was because he received a letter from Lawrence S. Rockefeller, um, demanding that the president come forward on this issue. It's time for transparency in the government, and Rockefeller was very influential in how Clinton um, danced around the issue. Clinton never said, a total cooperation or yes, in fact, this is true. He never really said that, but he knew for a fact that there were things going on. And I believe that he was one of the presidents at the time who were more briefed and took it more seriously than any other president, other than perhaps Barack Obama, who's made statements about it too. So, in a sense, during Paul's, I guess, tenure from 2005 on, I can't think of anybody else other than possibly Clinton and possibly Obama who made sort of side comments about this stuff. Paul was the only one who came forward to say UFOs are in fact as real as the airplanes that fly over your head. So in that sense, I think, Dave, yes, he was an island to himself.
There's just, millions of questions to ask right now regarding this entire Paul Hellyer subject. After he leaves office, Shag Harbor happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And prior, when he was in office, I made a little bit of a mistake the last half hour.
Mm-hmm.
When he was in office, the Stefan Mikulik case happened
Right.
at Falcon Lake.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks after the Liberal government is voted out in 1967, Shag Harbor happens.
Mm-hmm.
He claimed that he had no knowledge of anything, even in the transition of power as Minister of Defense, Deputy Prime Minister, that he didn't know anything about Shag Harbor. Do you buy that story?
Well, it's hard for me to understand. He may have known about it, but I don't think he took it seriously whatsoever, because at the time, the Shag Harbor incident was just an incident. It was like any other incident that really happened, or that, let's say, UFO landing or whatever it happens to be. Only subsequent, this is important to understand, only subsequent to it happening years later, and Chris Stiles will corroborate this, did the essence of what really happened at Shag Harbor come out. And this is way after Paul had made his statement about it. And the kinds of things that came forward about Shag Harbor were absolutely mind-blowing with respect to not just Shag Harbor, but the Shelburne Harbor incident too. There were two separate incidents that had happened. It wasn't just the Shag Harbor. So much came forward about it, and it was not really understood at the time how significant it was. And they just kept on perpetuating the story that it was just a yellow foam and it was some sort of object that fell and there was nothing to it. Only after Chris Stiles wrote his book, I think it was called Deep Secret or Dark Secret, whatever it was, did all of the stuff that really happened at Shag Harbor, the divers under the water and the RCMP being involved. Did it really make a prominent impression on the UFO community? And it's still a story that's not yet been completely fleshed out, because I know things about that particular incident that no one else on the planet knows, and I can guarantee that. And I don't want to talk about it right now, but I think maybe at some point you and I need to talk about the actual nub of that particular incident, because I have information about it that would blow people's minds who actually saw what happened. I don't want to be, so curt and speculative about it, but
I just wish that the Navy divers would come out.
Well, let me tell you something, my friend. I doubt to even say this, but it's going to come out eventually, because I'm going to make sure it does. I know a person whose father was one of the divers.
Bingo. There it is. We'll talk about that on another show when you're ready to talk about that. And
I think that once we do decide to talk about it, I think, my friend, we need to kind of bring this forward because it is so damn important. And I've held back on it now for, how long have I known her? A good 7 years.
Getting back to Paul Hellyer, we got about 4.5 minutes to go
Okay.
here. He became a very big proponent of trying to bring disclosure forward. What did his disclosure look like?
In the sense of how it was perceived publicly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Paul was always a rogue. He really had. Um, he was once again someone like him who takes so many different positions on things. He was a rogue. He was a conservative. He was a liberal. He founded his own party. And that was all because he was not happy with or could not reconcile the policies of the government that he was, involved in, particularly with Pierre Trudeau. And he and Pierre Trudeau had major battles over so many different things. And the reason that I think those battles occurred were because at the convention, um, Paul Hellyer was a whisper away from becoming Prime Minister of Canada. Pierre Trudeau beat him out by the width of a hair, okay, and the election results within the selecting the leader of the Liberal Party. Paul Hellyer could have been elected the leader of the Liberal Party when he ran against Pierre Trudeau, and he was very, very, very close. He had so much support, but it just didn't go. It just didn't go over the finish line for Paul. So he became disenchanted and becoming sort of a second fiddle to someone who was a huge figure. Trudeau was a massive. He's a polarizing figure within the Liberal Party. That's something that Paul just could not escape from. So as a result of that, and Paul taking a back seat with his intense views on everything, economic policy, immigration, and everything, he just wasn't settled with how the Liberals were moving. And he became a conservative, and then he founded his own party. So he tried to find a place where he could have influence. Let's put it that way. And he wasn't very successful at that in terms of politically gaining the notoriety within the public domain of Canadian politics. He didn't really, although he got to be defense minister and made the changes of unifying the forces, and he was also involved in housing. He never really got to a point where he was an influential leader within any given party that he was in, and that never sat well with Paul. I know that. So, and that was something that of his own making in a lot of ways, because he was so damn determined about having his own way. That's one thing that I learned about Paul.
He did take a lot of heat over
for sure.
combining the
Yeah.
military. He took a lot of heat
Yeah.
over scrapping the Avro Aero program. Him and Diefenbaker,
Yeah.
our former prime minister at the time. I mean, there was a lot of people. I mean, basically, the killing of the Avro Aero program really sent Canada into an aeronautical demise that they
Tailspin. Yeah.
never recovered from.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah. So, you have a man like that with so many damn convictions about the political realm within the Canadian context of politics. He was just so invested in, I'm not going to say arrogant way. He wasn't arrogant whatsoever, but he was just so damn determined to make sure that people, or to want people to understand that he had the answers to a lot of the questions that would resolve Canadian politics in a way that no one else could, particularly economically. If anyone wants to read about that, get his books about how he wanted to repair the Canadian economic system. And he had some extremely definite ways about how to do it. But he just, like a lot of prophets, you're not recognized in your own country until after you're dead, and that's sort of a kind of an unsung part of his history. So I mean, he's just stood up for so many different things, and once he latched onto this particular issue, he was a bulldog with it. I mean, he just didn't want to let it go, and he may have recognized his own inadequacies and saying maybe too much at sometimes, or at least taking positions that were so controversial. But that's the nature of someone who's ahead of the curve, for someone who wants people to recognize that this is an issue that we need to pay attention to. And, for all the criticism that people can hurl at him, that was the one thing that he did do. He brought this to the attention of the Canadian people in a way that's still ringing true now. And I'll tell you something, Dave. when Paul fell, about I'm thinking that 8 months maybe before he actually passed away. Okay, maybe a year. And he fell and hit his head, and he was in pretty serious condition. It was a really bad fall, but he recovered. He recovered well.
Hold that
But
thought. We'll
we'll do
continue
it. Yep.
that when
Okay,
we
I'll hang
return
on.
from the break here.
Okay.
Victor Viggiani, more on Paul Hellyer after this. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. All right, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going back to the whole Avro Aero program. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people don't know this, but historically speaking, the Avro Aero jet that was being built was literally going to be a top of the line fighter, and the American government, the true story, did not want Canada to have air superiority.
There
So
you
they
go.
they convinced the Canadian government, Paul Hellyer and Prime Minister John Diefenbaker at the time, to take a bunch of elderly F-101 Voodoos in replace, that they would give them a deal on those planes. I think there was like 67 of them or something along those lines, and
Right.
scrap the Avro Aero program. And what it did was pretty much what's happening in the automotive industry today, where they're closing up shop on all of these automotive industries to move them back to the US. Great for American jobs, but not so great for what's happening north of the border.
Right.
And Canada never recovered financially or aeronautically from the loss of the Avro Aero. And to this day, there are still people who cry about this program because it would have made Canada potentially at that point in time. I mean, we're going back 60 years now almost.
That's right.
Okay. It would have made Canada another superpower in the world.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It was more sophisticated than anything that the United States was developing. That Orenda engine went through, I think, 2 or 3 modifications. It became the standard of almost Mach 3, flight capabilities. Yeah. Yeah, that was a real. I watched that thing fly when I was a kid. It was.
Oh wow! Did you?
Yeah, Malton Airport is where they housed it, and it also landed at Downsview Airport, which was just north of me, where I lived in North York. And when it took off from Malton was, oh gosh, beyond Mississauga. I don't know, I'm guessing at least 8 miles west of Toronto. When that thing started to take off, you could hear it from my house. It was just like a roar like you'd never heard, and it would just soar right over the city and do the flips and turns. And I saw it fly. I think I saw that thing fly 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
And it wasn't like right over my house, and it was up, maybe 8 or 9,000 feet. But boy, it was just a magnificent craft.
And for our American listeners, basically what happened was, at the end of that, when they canceled the program, people were so pissed off, they literally moved or took all of the parts and the aircraft and dumped them into Lake Ontario,
right,
rather than salvaging them. Okay, they just dumped them. They're like, well, screw this. If we can't play with them, no one's going to play with them. The lake is going to eat them up and ruin everything. So let's just get rid of it.
Yeah, a sad historical point in Canadian history for sure.
Yes, it is. And now things are just so overpriced, and the military industrial complex is what it is today, that it's a chain that could never ever recover now.
Definitely.
The
People have
only
often thought, have you seen some of the updated drawings of what they're suggesting might be what the arrow might look like now?
yeah.
Yeah, it's really kind of funny.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's all sort of a pipe dream,
Well,
but
the only way Canada would be able to do it is if we actually got smart and started using our resources for our benefit rather than the world's benefit.
well, let's take that a step further. If you would,
Well,
yeah.
the unfortunate part is we only got 20 seconds. So
Okay, never mind.
unfortunately, I do have to have last word on that. I apologize. Right? I do. But thank you tonight to Jeff, Steve, Garvey, JSCO, Lori, and Katie for the super chats. Really appreciate it. We're coming back here in 5 seconds, everybody. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We really appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind everyone that if you've missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Victor Viggiani, we have until the top of the hour talking about Paul Hellyer, the legend and the man who came out after his political career believing that UFOs are here. Alien species are here. And he was a very powerful man and a big voice in this field. Victor, thank you so much for coming on in.
A pleasure as always, David. It's a great challenge to get all this information out, and you are a conduit here in the Canadian realm to do it. You're doing a great job at it. I'm just glad to be part of it.
What do you think Paul Hellyer's role was in convincing Canadian people to politicians especially to look at the UFO subject? Because I think in the end it didn't go well.
No, it didn't.
And to this day it didn't go well.
Mhm.
And even after and let me just finish here for a quick second. I'm having a power thought here and I don't want to.
I know where you're going. Yeah, go ahead.
Larry Maguire never got to talk to Paul Hellyer about it. He was a conservative MP, member of parliament, who came out really pushing about UFOs. And he had been studying the subject for about 3-4 years before actually coming out public.
Right.
And then some idiot in British Columbia who keeps a microphone in front of his face lined up a meeting between Canada and the USA regarding this.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of how it all started taking off on this north of the border. But the government up here has always been very quiet about it. We know Justin Trudeau, when he was in power, was read in at least 3 times on this subject. We know his defense ministers were read in on this subject, and yet silence. What do you think that all meant?
Well, I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier in the program. It goes back to the wealth of information that I think the United States recognizes that Canada has about this issue, and the 9,500 UFO files prove that. And I believe that the pressure that the United States has been able to press the rest of the geopolitical community across the international spectrum to keep quiet about this issue, because the UK and France and a number of other European countries, and also in Latin America, have so much information about that, and the United States has played a major role in keeping these countries under wraps. And I think that's one of the major reasons why Canadian politicians have chosen to become mum about this issue, because it probably came down from high, depending on what prime minister was in what was in power at the time. It came down from on high. We are going to follow the lead of the United States and keeping it quiet. And what kind of sanctions were these countries threatened by? Who knows? I mean, maybe there's economic pressure, maybe there was other political pressure, maybe there was an intelligence community at work in keeping not just Canada but other countries quiet about this whole issue. But it all serves to prove that the United States, in its attempt to become the controller of the geopolitical realm through its, the project of the new American century that I mentioned earlier, it just shows how powerful the United States was in keeping this important issue under wraps. And I think all Canadian politicians bought into that, irrespective of their rank in the government or their feelings about this whole issue, because several MPs have raised the issue on the floor of the House of Commons before, but never got any answers from the Department of Defense about what was going on, or the Department of Transport, which many people don't realize how influential the Department of Transport was in making this a particular issue. And the Wilbert Smith incident, which we could talk about if you wish later on, was one of the key factors in how the United States was trying to control the issue. So that whole thing was definitely part and parcel of why politicians here in Canada never were permitted. I don't know how that happens in the back rooms of the cabinet or their political caucuses. I don't know how that works, but they were just not given the permission to talk about it. No questions came forward on the floor of the House of Commons, or if there was a question, it was dealt with in a very curt and dismissive way. So that was just the way things happen, and it's largely due, Dave, to the influence of the United States to tell Canadian politicians to keep their mouth shut. I'll be as blunt as that. I mean, that's just the way. If you read the memo, it's on my website regarding the United States control. It's on my website, and how the Canadian government admitted that we will play down UFOs as according to the U.S. policy. It says that play down UFO policy. And it just filtered through everything, and as a result of that, Paul Hellyer coming forward after he was, well after he was an elected representative, it didn't go down well with the people in power, and I think as a result of that, it stayed as a mum issue until, as you said earlier, Larry Maguire raised this issue in the way that he did. And that's also on my website too. There's a very good chronology as to how that happened and who he spoke to. And if you listen to John Hannaford, who was a deputy minister of, I think, he was the deputy minister of national safety or whatever it was. He was a deputy minister at the time. And Larry Maguire pushed him to the wall. Have you heard about what's going on in Sweden? Have you heard about with the legislation in the United States about UAP? Have you heard about the hearings? And John Hannaford played dumb the whole time. Whether he did not know anything or whether he was playing dumb, we don't know. I can't say that for a fact. But it was the policy of the Canadian government to stay quiet about it. And Larry was the first one to challenge a deputy minister on that. And as a result of that, he also wrote a letter to Anita Anand, the deputy, the actual minister of defense, challenging her to come forward about the whole issue. And as a result of all of that, what happened was the Sky Canada project came into being. And that's another issue. That's another thing we can talk about. So all of this stuff that Larry Maguire learned, I'm convinced that he was actively paying attention to at least some of the things that Paul Hellyer was talking about. And he took this under his wing and moved forward with it in a very, very demonstrative way.
Sky Canada finally came out with their report.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the full report, just some detail on it.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised they came out with it, considering Dr. Mona Niemer, Canada's top scientist, who did sit in private meetings into the UFO topic with members from the United States, whether it was Chris Mellon or Lou Elizondo or NASA members or whoever. I was surprised that she was getting as railroaded as she did by some of Canada's alphabet agencies trying to gather information. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, it's basically I have two feelings about that report. It's a curse in one way because of the way it was managed and brought out and the content of it, but it was also a blessing in another way. And I can talk to both things. It's um, in the sense that it was a good thing. It was motivated by, I'm convinced, by Larry Maguire's letters to all the ministers and do this. The machinations as to how this all came about through the University of Ottawa and Dr. Mona Nemmer. They had to do something. That's my assessment of it. They had to do something to quiet down the conversation. So what they did was they contacted MUFON Canada. They contacted an organization, GPAN, in Quebec, several independent UFO researchers like Chris Rutkowski. Don't get me going on him, and several other individuals, groups in Canada. Okay, and they said, "Give us your stuff, give us your data." So they dumped all this data, and I know all the people that were involved in this. And the MUFON Canada, I know the director was involved in this. So they dumped the data to the University of Ottawa and Dr. Mona Nemmer, and they put all this stuff together. And all it was, David, as you well know, was just a chronology that we've had this many sightings, this many years of this, and that many in Quebec, and that many in Saskatchewan, and that many, and didn't deal with any of the key issues about this. Didn't mention Paul Hellyer at all. Nothing like that. They just stated the UFO numbers and what they look like, and the need for science to get more involved, and the need for agencies to be developed within Canada to report UFO. It was just a nothing bar. It was an absolute nothing bar. Okay. And they did it just to placate people, whoever generated interest, and say, okay, let's just throw the public a bone here. That's what it is. It just throws a bone. It's all it is. There's nothing more than that. And they did a really good job of it. It looks really official, and looks, to people in Canada who don't know anything about the UFO issue, who know little about it, they're going to say, my goodness, that's fantastic. That's, wow, this is really, government's talking about UFOs. It says nothing about the reality of what's going on. And that's why a CTV reporter, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to get in trouble, it talks about the Sky Canada project as the major realization or revelation about Canada's UFOs. There's a lot of bullshit, okay? And CTV is responsible for propping this thing up as a nothing bar, and I have a big problem with it. Big problem with the way CTV has handled this whole thing. And this particular journalist was interviewed by Ross Coulthard. And let me tell you that this journalist, all right, I'll just leave it right there. Anyways, the fact of the matter is, politically, it died a slow death. No one mentions it anymore. So it's just nothing. And I think part 2 is going to be even less than that. They don't even address.
I have an inside source on that.
Well, okay, that's fine.
And you're right so far. You are right. And I can say that my source helped write the Sky Canada project.
Mhm.
And they're waiting to see what happens governmentally. That's what I've been told.
Whoever wrote this, pardon me for being blunt, but whoever wrote the damn thing should be shot and pissed on, okay?
Yeah.
That's not a nice thing to say. But this issue is so goddamn important, Dave, that the way it was handled is a crime. It's an absolute crime, the way this thing was handled. There's no doubt about it in my mind. It was done.
It was whitewashed.
Yeah, exactly. It gave whoever made the decision to say, okay, we got to do something. Now, whether it was the prime minister.
Let me capture your emotion here for a minute, okay? But I have a good point on this because it's frustrating for me as well. You and me and people like us, we're more advanced on the UFO subject. We're not about the nuts and bolts. We're about the beings. Where are they coming from? Where are they stationed? Are they interdimensional? Are they from space? Are they time travelers? We're at that level. They're treating this like the United States did when the TTSA, the To the Stars Academy, came out, and the New York Times article came out, where it's all about nuts and bolts.
Right.
We can't get into the woo because the people are not going to support the woo. We have to go at this from a technical point of view. And that's where the Canadian government and Sky Canada, I think, dropped the ball because they are literally 7-8 years behind what the US has been putting out. Your thoughts?
Oh, you're exactly right. I couldn't describe it any more clear than you just did. The way I look at the UFO issue in it's more than two parts, but I look at the UFO issue in two ways. First of all, there's, like you said, there's the nuts and bolts issue of this whole thing, which is an incredibly deep, profound, and bizarre kind of way of thinking. The perceptions about what UFOs could be or what they are scientifically is intriguing. Their methods of propulsion, what they might look like, but it does not deal with the other side. Where are they from? Who's in charge of those things? Why are they here? Why are they taking our people? Those two issues have yet to come together to coalesce into one major issue about disclosure, that not only are UFOs real, these things are from someplace else, and we're not dealing with that issue. And that's the big contention that I have with the Sky Canada project. It doesn't deal with that. It hasn't melded those two issues yet properly. And that's why I say, and the damn part of it is they know the difference, David. They know the difference. They know it, and they're still propagating this bullshit about UFOs being this and that. There's number though. It was a cloudy day, and it came up about 10 feet. They have no idea what they're talking about. And I would love to be alone in the room, or at least at a desk with Mona Nemmer, and say, Doctor, just tell me, what do you really think was going on here? What's going on? And you know what she's going to say?
Nothing. That's
Nothing.
right. I mean, if you go back in history, Wilbur Smith was the top ufologist in the world. His research led to the start of Project Blue Book in the United States, which led to the creation of Dr. J. Allen Hynek and a great history of this subject in the United States. We have never capitalized on that. We don't have the information. I mean, you're also talking about governments in the past, Victor, that have allowed American helicopters and crash recovery crews to come into Canada and pick up these UFOs and take them into the United States without basically any issues whatsoever. It's like, oh, you're here to pick it up? Well, that's ours. We're Canadian. Well, we don't care you're Canadian. We're taking this.
That's right. Well, it's the same thing that happened with the UFO crash that was reported in northern Saskatchewan. They took the craft, they picked up the pieces and sent it to a laboratory, a crime laboratory, to be analyzed in Regina, and we don't know where these fragments are right now. And there's a report on that on that I have on my website about it. The other thing, going back to Wilbur Smith, that no one has, and it's probably going to be seen for the very first time on Canadian radio or whatever we got here, is I have handwritten notes here, written by Wilbert Smith in his interview with Dr. Robert Sauerbacher in Washington, D.C. about the UFO issue. This has never been seen before. Now, you've got the Transport Canada memo that Wilbur Smith wrote, okay, where it says UFOs are real, and there's several items there, the propulsion, but this is the actual transcript, handwritten transcript by Wilbur Smith about his interview with Sauerbacher. And I'm planning to publish this as soon as I can find a way to properly digitize it to show. And then the line reads here, Robert Sauerbacher, the facts reported in the book are substantially correct. And then Wilbur Smith asked, then the saucers do exist? ? Sauerbacher, yes, they exist. It says that right here in handwritten notes from Wilbur Smith. And nobody else has that but me. And you know where I found that? Paul Hellyer's library that he gave it to me. And I still have the box that I'm halfway through. I've yet to find out exactly what more Paul Hellyer has in his library.
Always ties back to Paul Hellyer.
It always goes back. I mean, why did Paul? How did Paul get that? I'm going to try to find that out. How he did, and I think I know how, but that's another question. The whole thing, I guess, the whole issue is Paul brushed the fur on this issue in the other way. Okay, when you pet a dog, you usually get you pet a dog. You go with the fur. If you want to really upset the dog, you brush the fur the other way, and the dog's going to run away. That's what Paul did. He brushed the fur the other way, and everybody just damn well ran away from the whole issue. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. That's the government response, and I think the Sky Project Canada is a response to that. They're afraid of what Paul Hellyer really felt, and if they really examined what Paul found out and knew and was the pioneer about, he got to the surface of it. If they find out more about it, and all they've got to do is talk to me, but they haven't said a word to me. I know more about this issue. I could blow my own horn here. Other than possibly Grant Cameron.
Yes.
Other than
one final question, as we got about 4 minutes to go here.
Yep.
In your estimation, where is Canada hiding their UFO recoveries, their UFO information? Like, we always believe it's at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in the US or Area 51. Where is this being hidden in Canada? Is it Cold Lake? Is it Suffield? Suffield, pardon me.
Yeah, Suffield. I would think both. I would think both. And one of the reasons why I say that is because NORAD is so involved in all of this issue that the coterminous relationship between NORAD and the United States, NORAD has control over where this information resides, and I'm convinced that it's. I would say Cold Lake for sure, but I'm not sure about the other one. And if there's deep information that's going to be, and I'm talking about information about crash retrievals and all of that, and the crash retrieval stuff in Canada is an issue that's yet to be resolved. And that once that comes forward, if we find out more about that, that's going to be a barn buster if Canada is willing to come forward on it, which I don't think Mona Nemmer would even want to touch with a 10-foot pole. But I think Cold Lake is probably your best bet there. That's just my.
I would agree on that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out over the next probably year, going into at least mid 2026 before we get any other issue. And one of the issues that we have is we only got about 2 minutes to go, is Canada does not have a strong media that will ask these type of questions.
Well, that's what the Canadians for Disclosure group that I'm director of with two other people from here in Oakville in Ontario and one out in BC. The Canadians for Disclosure group, we've got about 110 or 112 people across Canada who've joined the group, and we are trying to get information to the members of Parliament about the issue and trying to involve the media. And the Canadians for Disclosure, if you want to find out more about it, go to my website. And we're really working hard to engage members of Parliament, not necessarily to disclose or anything like that. What we want to do is just make them aware of the issues that you have just raised, the issues that I've just raised, just to make them aware of Canadians' long history about this. And what we want them to do, David, is give them enough information to flood them with information so that they can ask a question. How long has this stuff been going on? Why don't I know about it? And that's what Canadians for Disclosure are all about. That's the big question.
One of the issues that you're going to have, is we got about a minute to go, is since Larry Maguire retired, I asked one of my sources in Ottawa, who's the next one stepping up in this subject? And right now the answer is, I don't know. That's where I think you have to push Raquel Dancho. You have to push Michelle Rempel-Garner. Those are the two you need to push. Nothing's coming out of the Liberal government. Nothing's coming out of the other parties. And right now, this subject, much like the U.S., due to Canada's economy and everything else, this subject's going to be right down at the bottom of the barrel once again. Victor Viggiani, tell everybody where they can find your information.
Zland Communications, blogspot.com. Zland Communications .blogspot.com. You go there and you'll get all the Canadian stuff that's hot, and there's editorials, press releases, public opinions, pictures, videos, everything that no UFO videos. I don't publish UFO videos, but everything you want to know about what's happening in Canada right now, you go to Zland Communications and you'll find out about it for sure. Nobody else does it.
Victor Viggiani and everybody, we will bring him on again in a couple of months. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, Swamp Dweller. Then Robin Haynes is here for the Q&A. We'll be right back. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. Great job, Victor.
Pretty boring.
No, it was fantastic.
No, you're right.
It was fantastic. I might have some ideas for you. So
sure.
I'm actually off tomorrow. I got my day off, my daytime job tomorrow. So if you want to chat about that, I can.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the idea that you mentioned regarding other people in the government, James Bazin is another one. He's the conservative Department of Defense critic. He's another one who's made public statements about it. So, there are a number of people. Dan Chow. We're going after here. How much time do we have here before you go back?
I got to get going here in about 30 seconds.
Okay. My member of Parliament, Charles Sousa, is the chair of the Standing Committee on National Defense.
Yeah.
And I'm giving him a briefing on this, a 2-hour briefing on this.
Good.
Yeah. So we're moving forward. Your ideas would be great. We need to get through to these members. We need to. Anyways, thank you, David.
Tomorrow.
For sure. Thanks a lot.
All right, Victor. Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Victor Viggiani, everybody. I will be right back. right, I am back. Got about a minute to go here. Jeff Boggs, how you doing on X? Thank you for reposting the stream. Appreciate that. There's Robin. Hello there, beautiful.
Hey, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I am
Good.
Emperor Penguin, how you doing? And Adam for Christ, nice to see you. Thank you tonight to Jeff Steve Carvey and CS and JSCO and Lori and Kitty Caddywhack for the super chats tonight. Dirty Filth, how you doing? Hello, Dirty. Our Spaced Out Radio store is open. Make sure you check it out. It never closes. Here we go. 5 seconds. Hold on, Robin. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ignovomus. Ignovomus is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
I have an idea of what's going on in the woods. Just hear me out. This isn't a long story, but I have to tell someone. I live in northern Tennessee, about 30 minutes north of Nashville. One weekend in the spring of 2019, I went to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park alone. I just needed to get away for a bit. Newly single, trouble paying my new Jeep Wrangler, aka cash drain I thought I had to have. I was alone. It was a typical pleasant April day. I had gone to Klingman's Dome. I had hit some of the silly tourist shops, etc. I didn't have my camping materials, so I decided to stay at a local hotel not too far away. Even though I consider myself pretty experienced in the woods, plenty of times I have wandered off the trail and camped/hiked, which I wouldn't recommend doing alone. Anyways, sorry to stray. Day 2 of my little trip, I get up at about 6 a.m., eat breakfast, etc. I decide to go on a day-long hike. I'm close to a place called Grotto Falls, which is a very pretty and scenic area. I have not seen any other hikers, nor have I seen much wildlife, which is a little odd, but I don't think much of it. I sit down and eat some energy bars. I take with my food, energy bars, water, matches, flashlight, firearm, etc. I'm setting up next to a tree enjoying the beautiful overcast day. Not the depressing kind of gray, rain, but the kind of nostalgic October gray where the clouds look like cotton candy due to the sun. Suddenly, I see movement about 30 yards ahead of me. It's tough to tell what it is as I squint and move a tad closer. I know it sounds crazy. The only way I can describe what I see is a human-shaped figure that's hard to focus on. It's a silver-colored, but transparent in a way. Almost like it was beamed, but couldn't fully form or complete its beam. I couldn't move at all. I couldn't see any facial features, but I could tell and feel that I was being watched. I couldn't even muster words. I did not get any bad vibes. In fact, I got a very warming, loving vibe or feel in the air. As it was looking at me, I just got the vibe that I don't know, lonely or maybe some sort of curious vibe about me. I don't know how to explain this. It was very beautiful. I was finally able to mutter out a half-choking, "Hi," when it moved to the left. It walked upright like a human, but faster than a human could ever move. It was almost digitized. "Who are you?" I was able to say. To my surprise and shock, I got some kind of mutter sound. It sounded like something unrecognizable. I really don't know, as it was kind of walking away and then vanished. Maybe it was all in my head, but putting it together, it almost sounded like, "Sorry I bothered," like English wasn't its first language. I find myself sad to see it go. I can't explain it. Most of these encounters, people are terrified, but I got a very warm vibe from this. I haven't been the same since. Honestly, I would give anything to encounter it again. I find myself going back there all the time, but I've never had any experiences like that again. In fact, I'm going back there today and hoping I encounter this thing. I don't know if it was some kind of government-created being or some kind of being from another dimension that couldn't show itself, or there's always the possibility I'm crazy. I know you're probably going to ask why I didn't take a picture or shoot any kind of video. Well, it's easy to say, but when you're actually in a crazy situation, it's a lot tougher to think clearly than you think.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller. Hit subscribe, ring that bell, and you get thousands of stories just like that for free. It's time to bring in Robin Haynes for the Cryptid Q&A.
Robin Haynes walks soft where the tall trees sway. She hears Bigfoot whisper what the wind won't say. Through the veil of the forest where the wild man plays, the Bigfoot psychic talks to Sasquatch every day. Only on Spaced Out Radio's Cryptid Q&A.
Robin Haynes coming on in with a new intro. I finally got it done for you, Robin.
Oh my gosh, I'm honored. That is amazing. I didn't
Yeah.
even know you were doing that. That is so sweet of you.
I kept it secret, and I got a
You
song.
are the absolute best. I adore you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You
That
are
is
very,
so
very welcome.
sweet. That is one of the nicest things ever.
I will send you a copy.
Okay, yeah, please do. I love it. So
I
how
will do-
are you tonight?
I am good. I've been reflecting. So for people who don't know, it had been 6 weeks since I had been out to Flight 21. And I went with my good friend Mark Spender, who there's a little group of us, very small, that go out here. And you know, with Tim not being able to make it right now due to his health, I had to get back out there because literally, Robin, I was starting to being haunted by the location again. And I started getting these, I'm going to call them telepathic messages. Where are you? Why aren't you here? You have to come back. And it almost was to the point about a week ago where I was starting to panic over it. And I literally called up my buddy Mark, and because I know he's a real busy guy, and I said, "Mark, I don't ask for a lot of favors, but I need this. I need this." And I think Mark needed it too, to be blunt, because he hadn't been out there in over a year. And it was great being back out there. It was not the same. And what I mean by that not being the same, the area is familiar with Mark because Mark has been going there for the same amount of time I have been in years. But it felt very, how can I put this? Very timid, like almost like restarting from the beginning. And I didn't like that. It bothered me. Your thoughts?
First of all, I want to tell you, you did get telepathic messages because they were getting hold of me wanting to know where you were. So you're 100% right on that. You were getting messages from them. That's why you felt the way you did. 2, for anybody out there that wants to know how to start up a research area, how to do it the correct way, Dave is a great example. Like, he really, when him and Tim were going out there, they did it correctly. And because they did, they have built up a relationship with the cryptids out there and with the spirits out there and even the ETs when they've been around. Okay, so now there's this shift change, and Mark goes out with them. And you're right, they were timid, but it went beautifully. It really did. I don't think it could have gone any better. I think it was a great way to bring Mark back in. They seemed very, they were a little bit anxious to see what was going to happen. They didn't know where Tim was. They'd seen Mark before, but now he was there. And I think they knew. Remember, these things read your intent.
Yes.
And the intent was, he's not just here as a casual thing. This is somebody that potentially could be coming out more often. That changes things. That changes the dynamics. They handled it extremely well. I think, what did we say? There was like 5 total that were there,
Yeah.
and there was 3 that were up closer to you. They did wonderfully. You guys handled it perfectly. I'm so proud of you because, I talk and a lot of times nobody listens, but the thing of it is you guys are doing things the right way. Yes, it feels like you've been set back a little bit. Some ways you have. You are starting over with Mark, but I don't want you to feel like you're starting the whole process over. They are very well acquainted with you. They like you very much. They already have trust built in you. They will get caught up with Mark quicker than they did when you and Tim first came out there because they believe in you. Okay. And this isn't the first time Mark has been there. They were more accepting of Mark than I thought they'd be. Okay. There's a difference culturally in the Sasquatch in like the ones in Michigan opposed to in Canada where you're at. Yours are a little bit, I don't want to say less civilized because that's not really it either, but they are just a tad bit more uppity. There's more remote places where they can go to get away from people. So they are a little bit more, not even really high strung. They're just a difference in them. It's like the same way as when I go out to my place in Texas. There's a difference in the ones there opposed to Michigan. South Carolina, they're just more standoffish. They want to hover around you, but, they don't want too much contact. And they handled it really well. Like when I talked to you that night, when I finally did get a chance to talk to you, I was so impressed. And when I talked to them and I asked them how things went, I thought they handled it much better than what I thought they would.
Yeah, and that's good to hear because we did sense them.
Mm-hmm.
We did sense them, and it was something that Mark, who is really building up his own intuition on everything, he immediately picked it up on the energy that was they were way in the back. They were way in the back, but when you're in that situation, and I don't know if a lot of people will recognize this, when you go into the forest, you have this human ability to pick up when something big is around you. And being big, I'm not saying just Sasquatch. It could be a bear, it could be a mountain lion, it could be a moose or an elk or whatever it may be. You get this sense that you're not alone, that you are sharing territory with something big at that moment. And we got that when we went back to the gifting site. We got that moment, that there was something big out there. And I could tell Mark was a little bit hesitant because it had been a while.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're also at the time of year where a lot of big animals are moving. And it was very much we knew the area they were. It didn't feel like we were invited, so we didn't kind of go into that area. I did, though, take Mark to where the droppings were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he got down on, and at first he goes, well, it could be a bear. And then I said, Mark, I don't think it's bear. And when
No.
he got down closer, he actually picked up a piece of it, okay, and broke it apart just to see what was inside. And he was like, that's not a bear. I said, a bear's not going to back their butt into a tree, Mark, and
No.
all of a sudden drop a deuce right there. It's
Mhm.
not going to do that. And he agreed, and he is baffled by it and was not sure of what kind of dropping this was. So it was good to see him kind of getting back into it. I think it got him excited. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to go out again on Sunday to go back out there so we could check the trail cams. We did, for the public, we did do a couple of things. Number one, we did film. We did film with myself as cameraman, and I got a great interview with Mark in his encounters that have happened at Flight 21. And I'm going to be hopefully publishing that soon under the Secrets of the Forest. I might even try and get it set up for tomorrow for our YouTube membership, and then for the public after that. But the other thing too was that, putting up the trail cameras, we did put one up by the gifting site. And we did say, Robin, and I used your words exactly. I said, we are putting this up to see what kind of animals are potentially messing with the gifting site.
Mhm.
Is it people or is it animals? I said, if you want your picture taken, you're more than welcome to come in and have your photo taken. The camera will not hurt you. It will not do anything that damages you. We just want to see who or what is moving the items, because
Yeah.
the quarter had moved again. The quarter had moved approximately 3 inches from where it was, and the ring had gone from in the tree to on the ground. Nothing else had moved. The quartz didn't move, which I'm still surprised.
Yeah, me
The
too.
the jade didn't move. I'm still surprised over that.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to find that balance, but we did put the camera up, and now we're going to see.
Well, first off, I want to tell you that the reason when you go out in the woods like that, and like you said, you could tell that there was something large out there. 100% right. But what happens is your body is made of energy and frequency, your soul, your consciousness. Okay. It's not third dimensional. The body is, but the rest isn't. So your body reads energy. Even if you don't know it's reading energy, it does. And there's a disconnect and a lag time between when your body reads energy and it gets to your brain, because your brain's third dimensional. So when you're out there and these other creatures, whether it's a Sasquatch or a bear, are around, everything radiates energy and frequency. Your body picks it up. You are an energy meter. So your body picks it up before it even gets to your brain. And that's why you have that feeling that something is there. You're absolutely 100% right. Energy doesn't lie. Frequency doesn't lie. Impossible. So your body's picking that up. That's like when I work with people, the first thing I do is I teach them how to read energy and frequency, because it keeps them safe. So if you aren't seeing anything's around, you're going to know that something's around, and you're going to know if it's good or bad, because a negative or a bad energy and frequency, you're going to feel that bad. You're going to feel the darkness in it. So that's why you pick it up. And you have to remember, you've been doing this a while. You are so much more advanced in your abilities and skill set that you had, or that you have. Your frequency's off the charts now. 2 years ago, it was still high, but it's not where it is now. Everybody has a baseline for abilities. And when you raise that frequency, that's how you tap into those abilities. So you're going to start picking up on all that stuff. Like, you're doing fantastic.
Well, like I said, it's all going to depend on Mark's schedule and whether or not it aligns with what I'm doing. And we are on a time limit now. Like, the
Mhm.
time limit has officially kicked in, and we are going to try our best to get a few more times in there before we have to shut it down for winter, probably within the next 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. Well, and everybody needs to know too, the Sasquatch, any cryptid. Okay, we already know animals do it, but the cryptids, and they're not animals, but the cryptids, they're getting ready for winter as well, which means extra hunting. They're trying to get extra food sources set up. They will, get extra food. They'll bury it. They'll put it in caves. They'll put it wherever they need to. So they are really out and about right now. They're very active. They've got a lot of things going on. They're trying to get ready to prepare for winter. Like Dave, in your case, it gets so much heavy snow there. So they've really got to be on their A game. In the South over here, they get ready, but there's not a whole lot they have to do. Michigan, that's altogether different. They've been preparing since September and October. So they're out right now. They're getting all that extra food, whether it's berries, whether it's meat, whatever they've got to have to sustain through the winter. They'll hunt all winter long, but food is more scarce then.
Yeah, I can totally see that as you talk about that. And realistically, as we got about 2.5 minutes to go here before we go to break at the bottom of the hour with Robin Haynes, realistically, I'm hoping to get that comfortability again. I'm really hoping that we can try our best to gain that trust and that communication, because I think it's going to be important, and I don't know if it's going to take another set of weeks. But one thing that I do know that I am determined for is, hopefully Tim can come back next year regarding it, because I know there was this energy around that. Where's Tim?
Yeah.
I didn't want to say that in front of Mark, because I didn't want Mark to feel bad,
Right.
or as a second, side dish kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nobody ever wants to be that person.
No, and they don't take change well, and they know there's the difference. But they did say, and they said it again while you were talking, we are friends.
Yes.
We are still friends. So I think you're going to be surprised. I mean, they handled it better than I thought they would.
Yeah.
And they feel really comfortable. I mean, it's going to move quicker than it did when you first started. It'll take a little bit because it is inbred in them to be cautious.
Yeah.
Their very lives depend on it, but I think you're going to be fine.
Well, I think too that next year I am going to have to, in order to alleviate any type of situation next year that could hinder the investigation, I do need to build up the team, or build up a team by at least 2 more people. I think if I had a team of 4, if one has to back out, there's still 3 of us that could go in there. Of course, I'm going to get them all cleared. The site will tell you whether or not it wants you, that if it wants those people there or not. So that's what we'll go by.
Yeah, you just got to be careful because they get overwhelmed and overstimulated extremely easy. You don't ever want to do it by yourself, but you've got to be careful because I had, somebody asked me the other day, are they autistic? They're not autistic. I know we had people that said they are not autistic. It's a different culture. That's the issue. But they do get overstimulated very easy because they are so always concerned about being trapped, being caught, being stalked.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'll definitely bring in those type of people that will have that same admiration and respect. Robin, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. When we return on Spaced Out Radio for the final half hour of the Cryptid Q&A, we'll get to some audience questions. We'll talk more Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and go from there. We'll be right back. This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott. All right, we're clear.
I absolutely love this song. I am so shocked.
You want me to play it again for you?
No. It was wonderful. I was so surprised. Oh my gosh.
Here we go. Now you can listen to it without surprise. Here we go.
Okay.
tall trees sway. She hears Bigfoot whisper what the wind won't say. Through the veil of the forest where the wild man plays, the Bigfoot psychic talk to Sasquatch every day. Only on Spaced Out Radio's Cryptic Q&A.
Oh my God. I love it.
I thought you would like that.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. That is so sweet.
I
you're-
care. I
You're,
care.
I know. I love you. Your group out there, they really are handling it well.
That's good.
And they're like, just remember, we are friends. We are friends. And I said, I will tell them you are friends. I think it went better than, definitely better than what I thought. I thought they would be more apprehensive. I think they were a little anxious. I don't even think they were really tense. They were a little bit on edge just to see which way it would go. But that's what I would expect.
Yeah.
But I think they did better than what I thought they would.
Yeah.
You must have been talking to them when you were out there or on your way there.
Oh, yeah.
And I had
There was
told him, I
definitely
said,
communication.
yeah, but I had told him too, he's going to try to bring somebody else out. It's somebody you've met before. It's going to be fine. And I had told him that on and off during the week. And I don't think it had as much to do with me talking to him as you did on the way out there. And you guys handled yourselves really well. Like, that's the good thing about you. No matter what different circumstances are out there, you handle it like a champ with them. Like, you handle it with respect for them, compassion for them, and they know that. They pick it up off of you. So that's fantastic.
It was just so nice to be out there again. It
Oh,
really
yeah.
was. By the way, if you got a Facebook message, that's from me. I
Okay.
sent your song over.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. They respect you as well. So it'll take a little bit, but I think it's really going to be fine. I mean, at this point, they didn't show any indications after, I got your message and I was talking to them. They didn't show any indication of an issue.
Right. Which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah. It was fantastic. So that's great.
Well, hopefully they can continue to excuse me, to see that we're making an effort.
Yeah. Well, they
Yeah.
missed you. They missed you.
Oh, the feeling was mutual. Like, getting back out there, like Mark, one of the first things Mark said, and we didn't get it on camera, but one of the first things that he said when he got out of the vehicle was he heard a voice in his head that said, "Welcome home."
Yep. Well, and because of the frequency they are, you get used to that. And when you're not around it, you literally miss it. Like, it's almost like going through withdrawals.
Yeah. I could see that.
I'm so glad it went so well. What a relief.
Yeah. Yeah, it would just be nice to have, a full unit on that. So that way it would be, good. I think 4 people would be perfect. I really do think 4 people would be perfect. My perfect team would be Mark and Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And probably one more. I'd like there's a woman that I need to interview regarding this. And I don't think she's ready now, but could be ready for next year.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. We got about 22 seconds here.
Well, and they're going to tell you if they think it's too many.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll let you know.
4. No more than 4.
Yeah.
But 1 second, Robin. Thank you to Kitty, Lori, JSCO, Jeff, Steve Garvey, and CS for the super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate the love. Here we go with the next half hour. We're into the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We greatly appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you know our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here's Robin Haynes, final half hour with her in the cryptid Q&A. And Robin, as we continue on here, I do want to get your opinion because it was the 58th anniversary of the Patterson-Gimlin film and Patty at Bluff Creek. This is the one that started us all on our trek, and it's hard to believe that 58 years later, in my opinion, it is still the greatest Bigfoot film ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It really is. And, we're really blessed that we even have it. There's, obviously been some controversy around the film. Igor Borstev ran tests on it a long time ago when he first was brought to him by Renee DeHuyden, and to prove that it was an authentic piece of film, which is phenomenal. But, and MK Davis has came out with a lot of reports on it too. So there's a lot of things back and forth on that. I know what Sasquatch have told me about it. So, there's that. But regardless of the background around it, the film itself is just incredible. It really is. Now, there are mixed feelings with the Sasquatch groups on that film. I've had clans that tell me that, they like Patty. And I've had other clans that for a while, they were so opposed to her because in their minds, she betrayed their people. The reality is she was scared. That's why she walked back towards them instead of trying to lead people away. So it just depends on which clan you're talking to as far as their opinion of Patty. But as far as the legitimacy of that film, it's incredible. It's 100% legitimate. As far as the clarity, and I think it is one of the best footages that we have of seeing an actual Sasquatch on film. The only one that I've ever seen that was as clear as that was the one that was used during the Ketchum study, the Genome Project of Matilda. That also, as many people didn't always believe it, was a legitimate piece of film. But the one of Patty, I mean, what do you say? It's right there. And it's crystal clear as a bell. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And, it's funny because I think a lot of the critics, and I mentioned this on the show last night with Josh Rutledge, the UFO wizard, because we were talking about it. But I just want to bring this up again before we get to some audience questions. I think too many people look at that timeline with a 2025 mentality and not a 1967 mentality.
Oh, I agree. And there is no way back in 67 when that was filmed, literally no way that they could have ever faked that film. Number one, the footage they would have never had the equipment to fake it. Number two, we didn't have costumes, masks, CGI, any of those things. What they got was raw footage of an actual being that was legitimate. And the world couldn't handle it. We've been programmed to believe they don't exist. So back then, when that came out, nobody had even heard of these things. I mean, it was like the craziest thing in the world for anybody to believe, but there's no way to dispel this film as not being legitimate. We did not have the technology. We did not have any type of electronics that could have faked it. And there was nothing in Hollywood that could have duplicated Patty. And Igor Borstev, when he checked it out and they brought that footage forward, it showed the muscles flexing. It showed the angle of the muscles in the legs when she walked. There's no way to dispel that film is legit. I mean, I've stood up like within a matter of 5 to 10 feet of one that was walking. I've had them walk next to me. When they walk and their muscles flex, it is really a sight to behold because they are sheer muscle. That film, when they did the close-ups on it and really kind of broke it all down, shows the flexing of those muscles. Even if you had the ability to have CGI or have the costume equipment that we have now. And remember, we didn't have it back then, but if we had it, it could not duplicate what was in that film. It just couldn't. And, it really was, you felt bad for her because she didn't know which way to go.
Yeah,
If
she
went
was just trying to get out of Dodge.
Yeah. And, the large majority of the Sasquatch have a problem with her because they claim she betrayed their people, because when she walked towards them, what followed next and what happened was very tragic.
Yeah.
But for her, going the opposite way would have put her right in with humans. The only option was to go back. She was scared. And she was actually, from what the Sasquatch say, she was very intrigued by humans. That was her downfall to begin with. This wasn't her first rodeo with, watching humans or whatever. But she was scared. And she did what probably anybody else would do. She went to her people because she was scared.
Yeah.
But it's just an incredible piece of footage, and the second reel to that, which is called the trackway footage, is a composite of all of the footage that was taken on that mountain. And that is it's got just a ton of things in it. It's phenomenal.
Well, the one thing, and I'll end the conversation on this point, is nobody, and I mean nobody, in 1967 is going to sew a pair of boobs on a costume.
Right.
Okay.
I
And
know.
to me, never mind the muscle movement, the legs. There's a couple things. When I look at Bigfoot videos today, watch the walking. No video has any Sasquatch walking the way Patty did.
Right.
And the way her muscles moved.
Yeah.
No video ever brings up the breasts that
Right.
Patty had. Okay, so when people say, well, it was a costume, really? In 1967, which was a very conservative America back then, where they were still measuring bathing suits for women at the beach, they are not all of a sudden going to play a joke and say, haha, let's throw a pair of teats on here. Right?
Oh, I agree.
They're not going to do that.
No, I completely agree.
And the people that think that they made all this money off this video, they made nothing. Do your research.
They didn't.
They made nothing off this video.
No, and the thing too is they got nothing but harassment and ridicule. It altered their lives. So if anybody thinks that they did this for fame, fortune, money, whatever, no. I mean, look what we go through as experiencers or researchers now. You are ridiculed. You are harassed. You have hate coming at you from every angle. I've had death threats. I mean, I've had kidnapping attempts, and that's now. After all these years where people are aware that they're around, can you imagine in 67? That would have been opening yourself up for nothing but pain.
Right.
So they had nothing to gain by this. And, they did later on, several years after, somebody said, "Oh, I did this. Roger Patterson, knows that I faked it." You didn't fake anything. Now you're trying to cover up so that it all goes quiet. That was not faked.
I agree.
100%. And Sasquatch carries a certain energy signature. For people that know how to read energy signatures out of pictures, as I do, if that was just a human in a suit, you would pick up straight human DNA. You would not pick up a human hybrid DNA, and you would not get a Sasquatch signature out of it.
I would agree with you on that. Let's get to some audience questions. So we have about 10 minutes to go.
Okay.
Let's go right off the bat to the Doug Shelby. You may remember that we, as in the Doug Shelby, lives in the Missouri Ozarks, and we really think the big feet have left for a while, and they are back now. Is this a correct hunch?
To my knowledge, they never left. I think a lot of them might have moved to more isolated areas, but they are definitely back. They are loud and proud in Missouri, so don't let anybody tell you that they're not. They do go quiet at times. Okay. No, they're not migrating. They're not leaving. But believe it or not, as crazy as it sounds, they do, with their own culture, they do have things that they do. I've had my group that were gone for 8 months at a time. And when I asked where they were, they said, they told me what they were doing. And they said, but don't worry, we'll be home soon. And they did. So they do have brief moments of time where you may not see them as much, or they may be doing something that for their culture is important. But Missouri has always had a constant source. There is no place that they are not. I have clients that are in Hawaii. Okay. Like I work with people all over the world. I've yet to find any place that they are not. I've always known of people in Missouri that have had sightings or contact of some sort, but I do think that there are times that they do kind of, disappear for a little while doing whatever it is in their culture that they need to do, and then they're back. So yeah, but they're definitely active there right now.
All right, let's get to another question. Let's go to Paramarv. Over the weekend, one of our dogs attacked another one of our dogs. Could a pet communicator be able to discern what happened and why, and if it can be prevented?
Yeah. 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 Part of the problem that they're having with the two of them, they're around each other, and it's just like siblings, that fight now and then. But yeah, you can definitely have a medium. I do it for people all the time. I help people find lost pets. I communicate to their pets. I help do diagnoses on them when the vet are having a hard time because they can't talk to them. So it absolutely can be. As far as being prevented, what you're going to have to worry about is you have one of them that is now carrying a grudge against the other one for going after it. So you're going to have to work on that. I had a similar situation that happened with one of mine. So, message me on Facebook if you are on Facebook, and I can try to help you out.
That's perfect. All right, let's move to another one here. Let's go to Blue Cruise. Do the Sasquatch, dogmen, and other cryptids use handheld geometrically shaped technology on occasion to assist with entering and exiting portals?
They don't need anything like that to enter and exit a portal because it's frequency based. They take the frequency from their body, it's already activated, and they're able to just go in it. But what I will say about the devices, we have found out, I have not personally seen this, but I do have a lot of contacts. And in certain areas, there are a couple different groups of Sasquatch that seem to have that handheld technology. I do not think they are a regular Sasquatch. I think we do have ET groups that have placed some Sasquatch here, not just our Sasquatch, but other ones. Those are more of a robotic Sasquatch, and they are very dangerous. But there are some that are actively here in the United States, and I'm sure other parts of the world, and they 100% do have those handheld things. I had somebody refer to it as looking like a cell phone. It's not a cell phone, but it looks like it. Now, I haven't had any that said it was like a triangle or anything like that, but they said it was about the size of a cell phone, and they used it. So I do believe that to be true. But they do not need it for exiting and entering a portal.
All right. Well, let's get to another one here. Let's go to, let's see who's up next. Let's go to Robin. What do dogmen like to be referred to as?
Do you know, when I refer to them as dogmen, if you're going to put dog in front of it, they prefer dog people. Again, there's cultural based things. I have been told that certain groups are called mishtas. Again, just like with the Sasquatch, certain areas are Sasquatch, certain other areas are Sukala. It's a cultural thing on what they want to be called. When I refer to the dogmen, they at times will, depending which group, will be insulted and say, we are dog people. We are a people. And again, other areas, they are called mishtas. So, it just depends on which area they're at.
Let's go to Blue Cruise again. Are there hundreds of physical variations of the dogmen that are customized for their particular environment?
Yes, there is. I don't personally, and this is a personal opinion, believe that it has to do with the environment as much as these are very clearly, and we have not got the DNA back yet. We're still waiting on it. Hopefully it'll be soon. But clearly there is canine in there because of the way that they look. And if you look at different ones, and I have had several different ones around me, depending on what canine they're crossed with is going to depend on what they look like. So you may have certain ones in certain environments that canine might be more prominent, but it really seems to be whatever they were crossed with. I have one that comes by here that looks like a hyena, and hyenas are not dog. Okay, to begin with, they're not a dog or a cat, but it has that look to it. I've seen some that look like a pit bull. I've seen the German Shepherd kind. I have one that I visit on and off a few hours for me, that he is just wonderful. I've had pictures where they've taken my picture and he's been in the background. He looks like a husky. He looks like an actual husky with the markings on his face. So it seems to be more prone. I know there's, the theory of the type 1, the type 2, 3, 4, and all their personalities are different to the types. But in my world and the experiences that I've had, which is what I go by, it's not a type. It's just what canine was crossed with it. And hopefully we will know soon with the new genome project as to what else is in there.
Let's go to Jules. Got about 3.5 minutes, Robin.
Okay.
I heard an argument that it was fake, the Patterson Gimlin film, because the breasts were hairy, but cats don't remove their hair from their teats until they are about to give birth.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I've had females with babies. The one that, in fact, when Sadie, I called her, named her Sadie, brought her baby to me, she had as much hair as cousin It on the Addams Family. And that hair was all over her breast as well. And when she would walk, that hair would part as the muscles flex, and then you could see like the nipples and the rest of her breast. And I was within a very close proximity of her and her baby because she brought the baby so I could see it. I've seen other females that were bare chested. It's the individual. Do not let the amount of hair on the breast fool you or make you think any of it's fake. They are all individualized, every one of them. They are as different as we are.
I love it. All right. I think we got time for one more. Blue Cruise again. What's the tallest Sasquatch that you were aware of?
I have heard that in the Solomon Islands, they have some that are up to 20 feet. The most common, really large one that I hear in the United States is around 14 and a half feet. The tallest one that I've been near, I would say, is probably 12 to 14 feet. I mean, I was like standing next to his thigh and it was above my head, and I'm like 5'9" and a half. So yeah, he's a pretty big boy. But I have heard that in the Solomon Islands, as well as up in the mountains area where, there's much more room, the food's more plentiful, and they're way out there, that they can get anywhere from 14 to 20 feet.
I have heard in British Columbia here, and the more north you go towards Alaska and the Yukon,
They get bigger.
that there have been creatures 15 to 20 feet tall
Yeah,
seen
I
in those
believe it.
areas.
Yeah. You get in these more mountainous and wild areas where it's more open, there's more game. It's easier for them to get to it, and they get big. I think some of the bigger ones that I've heard of have all come out of like the Alaskan area, the Canadian area, up in the mountains. I think in Montana get quite large, but in Washington State, I have heard about some 14 to 16 footers in Washington State, but it seems to be in the more reclusive areas, the bigger they are. No, the one that I saw that was almost 14 feet, he was in my backyard in Michigan. So, I mean, it can be anywhere, but they can get very large. Absolutely.
30 seconds to go. Tell everybody where they can find your contact information.
Okay. If you want classes or services, you can find me at paranormal-empowerment.com. Or if you just need to talk to me, you can find me on Facebook under Robin Haynes, Haynes, no middle initial.
You're very easy to get a hold of. And the one thing I love about you is you always respond.
Yeah.
You do.
Well, you know what? I think it's an honor that anybody even takes time to reach out to me. So, if they're going to take their time to reach out to me, they deserve to be responded to. Like my clients, I'm on call for my clients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they know it too. So, I mean, I have 2 phones, so they can text me at any time if they have any issues or whatever, besides the work that we do during their sessions. So I try to be available.
I totally agree with you. And Robin, I want to say a big thank you for coming back on Spaced Out Radio.
Oh,
We will talk to you next week.
you
We
got
say
it.
goodnight to Robin. And hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X and hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job, Robin.
Thanks. That was fun.
You did well. Let's clap for you a little bit.
Oh, you're awesome. And thank you for the intro song. I love it.
Hey, in Nebraska, we're going to have to play that for you when you walk on stage.
Oh, I know. Won't that be fun? I'm going to be working on the layout in the guest list. I've got to get this done this week. I've got it all done, but I need to go through, double check with everybody. So if I've got any open spots, I will let you know so you can connect me with your friend. And I will, if I don't have any open spots, I'm going to see if I can lay the thing out so I can make room.
Yes.
So I will see what I can do. I thought that we were overbooked, to be honest with you, but then we always get a few people that their schedule changes and maybe they can't do it. So let me work on it and see how I can do it. And
That
we'll
would
see
be
what's
perfect.
going on. Yeah, we'll see what we can do
All right. Robin,
because I'd love to get her in.
stick around for just a couple minutes if
Of
you
course.
don't mind. I'm going to
Sure.
say goodnight to everybody else here. Big thank you tonight to CS, Jeff, Steve Garvey, JSEO, Lori, and Kitty Caddywhack for the super chats. I got a couple of swear words I need to edit from Victor because he went bullshit twice. Bullshit. So that's what I got to edit on out. Tomorrow night on the show, if my computer will get there. Who do we have tomorrow night? Jason McLean is going to be in talking Bigfoot and Dogman. It's going to be a great show. And we will talk with you all tomorrow night. So see you soon, everybody. Appreciate you. And have a good night. One sec, Robin.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.